Good evening, everyone. This is Francis Nicholas, and this is my Periscope activity. To start, I wanted to identify how I would challenge my students with this same principle. So this is a vocabulary that I use with them for the technological design process. I love the way that the identify a need was presented to us with going to see Bill Nye, not being tall enough. I thought that was great. I loved it. Not that I would steal it because I think that's fair, but I wanted to just present that. Some of the possible problems, angles of the mirrors, light entering the tube, distorting the image, the sight line becoming blocked as you put the tube together, so you need to be really careful when you're doing that. If I was giving this to my students, I would have them identify terminology that states these things, the technical term for refraction or reflection, things like that, so that they had an understanding of how it works. I then created a design. I always give my students graph paper to start. So I took big 28 by 22 pieces of graph paper with 1-inch squares. I sketched out my design and cut it right out of the graph paper to see if it would work. This is where I began troubleshooting because I wanted to make a round tube, and I realized that the lighter material that I would need to make it round, I didn't think would be structurally strong enough to hold the mirror, so I had to change my design right away. When building prototypes, I limit my students' supplies so that I can have groups and groups of students participate in creating activities. So I wanted to do that same thing through this process. The only thing with the mirrors, my wife donated some of her pocket makeup kits, so I had to remove the mirrors from there. And again, I was going to use poster board, but after I was doing some troubleshooting, didn't think that would be heavy enough. I was building my prototype. I scored my cardboard so I could bend it around. I created 2 tubes, kind of hard to see. One of them, each column or each score mark is 3/16 of an inch narrower than the first tube. I glued the edges of my tubes together, covered them with duct tape to limit the light getting through the edges. I created a 45 degree triangle, glued and taped that into the corners, and then attached the mirrors to those, giving me that 45 degree angle so that I could refract my image through the mirrors. Again, troubleshooting and redesigning started right from the design phase. And I tried to share my outcomes, but the camera on my phone was just collecting the light off the mirror, so you really couldn't see the images. But I did test it around the room, and it worked really well. The reason that I did 2 different tubes was because I wanted to see if it would change the image at all just by adjusting the length between the mirrors. It didn't, but I'm going to save my Periscope, and I think I'm going to try and add some kind of lenses to see how that would change that image as I move my tubes in and out. Thank you, and sorry that's a little long.